Good afternoon, everyone. I realize that I'm standing between you and the washroom as the final speech before the break, so I'm mindful of that. I drove here from Golden, and as I was driving, I was listening to a podcast, and the woman said something that kind of resonated with me that I wanted to share, and I bet it'll resonate with a number of the speakers as well. And that is the most important person in need of your wisdom is you. And so my guess is the speakers are speaking to themselves. They're not just speaking to you, but they're speaking to themselves. And so this talk here is not only from my heart, but it's also to my heart. So here we are, we're at a women's conference, and we're meeting new people. And what's the first thing that you do when you're meeting new people? You ask questions, right? So what's your name? Where are you from? And then we ask the big question. So what do you do? And we ask people to define themselves by their roles. And we define ourselves by our roles as well. And it isn't a bad thing, because our roles are a launching pad to getting to know people. The danger lies when our roles separate us instead of connect us. Because, let's face it, we have a socially constructed rating system. We automatically hear what people do, and we really quickly equate value to what they say that they do. And by equating roles with value, we can sometimes dehumanize others or elevate them. And the irony of this is that we're actually wired for connection. Why do you think that this talk is resonating in the hearts of each one of you right now? Why is the work of Brené Brown and Kristen Neff so popular? It's because it's conversations about authenticity, vulnerability, the imposter syndrome, about being seen, right? And the reality is, we all desperately want to be seen, right? And we heard that over and over again today with all the speakers. And it's like this open secret. Finally, we're talking about it. We can finally talk about it, and thank goodness, in the case of Brené Brown, it's a researcher instead of some esoteric guru. So we can it kind of validates the fact that it's okay to talk about authenticity. So why do I care so much about seeing people? And why do I care so much about soul-to-soul leadership? So I was elected to town council in 2002. And I gotta admit, I'm a bit of a political junkie, and so I thought it was kind of cool to get to be able to hang out with the premier and hang out with provincial and federal ministers and elected officials. I was a bit starstruck, and I put them on a bit of a pedestal, I have to admit. And but I did have a few bubble-bursting experiences that kind of made me think a little bit differently. And one of them was we had a huge community issue, and we needed to go and meet with the minister on this critical issue. So we walked into the room, and he wasn't there. He came a little bit late, and he sat down. His staff was there. He sat down, and he nodded at us. And then we started our presentation. He ate his apple, and he didn't look at us. He ate his apple not like he was thinking, this is really important. He ate his apple as if he didn't give a rip about what we were saying. And I remember, again, I was a young town councillor, early experience, and I was like, you're an elected official just like us. And you've just treated us like we're absolute peons. And I remember thinking, if I ever get to a position of power like that, I will never treat anyone like that. I will never make them feel small. I was just deeply, deeply disturbed by that experience. And, that being said, to some degree I understand a little bit about what political life is like, and your life is no longer your own. And the public elects, we elect people, we put them on a pedestal, and then we have high expectations. So when I was elected mayor in 2009, I didn't think anyone would really care. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was elected mayor, I had a responsibility. No one prepared me for the star status, the celebrity status that took place so I would go places and people were like, oh my gosh, there's the mayor. And I was like, what? It's just me. You know me. I'd go into the grocery store and people would, oh, there's the mayor. People would ask what I do, and I would say, oh, I was the mayor. And suddenly their demeanor would change, and they'd act like everything I said was so important and meaningful. And I remember wanting to explain, hey, it's just me. It's Christine. People would ask me, even my friends would tease me, so what are we supposed to call you now, your worship? And I'd be like, no, please don't do that. And a couple things stood out for me. I was helping out at McHappy Days, because that's one of the things that you get to do. You get to do all these cool things as an elected official. And I was helping out at McHappy Days, and a customer was being quite rude. And the young man that I was working with, he said, this is our mayor, you know. And all of a sudden, his demeanor completely changed. And he was laughing and joking with me. And I remember thinking, how could you treat us with such contempt? And suddenly you know I'm the mayor, and suddenly you're laughing and joking and treating us as if now we have, I have some kind of great value to you. And I found that so deeply, deeply disturbing. And it taught me a huge lesson on how I wanted to be with people and how I wanted to deal with them. If I did not want to be put on a pedestal, or if I didn't want to be made to feel small, then I wasn't going to do that to other people. And so every time I met either with a federal minister, a provincial minister, or somebody had an important title, or whether it was meeting with a senior in my office who was upset about the utility rate increase or changes to the pool schedule, I made a point of taking a deep breath, really becoming self-aware, and going, you know what? This person, they're not either more important or less important. It doesn't matter who they are or what they do. I wanted to bring my whole self to the connection, and I wanted to see them soul to soul. And so I entered my leadership soul to soul instead of role to role. And I stopped being overly impressed or underwhelmed. I didn't want to do that. And one day I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the importance of soul to soul, because I did write about it a fair amount in my journal. And I was thinking about this, and I just got a coffee at Starbucks, and I got into my car, and this man knocked on my window. And so I rolled it down, and he asked for some money, and I remember just doing a quick grounding. Soul to soul, girl. Soul to soul. See this person. You have no idea what their story is. You have no idea what their life is like. Don't judge them. Don't put yourself as the nice-dressed ladies getting into the car with their Starbucks coffee, and they're the person desperately needing a little bit of change. Soul to soul. And the interaction was completely different. And so, imagine you're in this room right now, and you're having a conversation with somebody, and they're looking around for someone more important to talk to. How does that feel? Imagine having a conversation with someone, and they're interested, they're curious, they want to know who you are and what you're about. Changes the energy, doesn't it? It totally changes the energy. And so all the conversations about being seen and connecting with people, as my ask is that you don't make too much or too little of anybody, but that you see people, bring your whole self, see them soul to soul, connect with people, because powerful women don't need to use their roles as a way to connect. They can use their whole self. So thank you so much. And again, now you all have to race to the washroom. And thank you to my golden gang who came out to support me.